Looking stuff up with WAPTEC. Here we go. The actual hijacker pilots on September 11th are the ones who flew the planes. Looking for people who fit whatever narrative or belief you have to call the pilots and say things about them doesn't really work. So this is my very bad attempt at trying to get this straightened out. So here we go. The actual pilots' names were Hani Hanjour, private pilot's license and commercial pilot certificate in 1999, or somewhere thereabouts. Ziad Jarrah obtained a single-engine private pilot's certificate at Florida Flight Training Center in Venice, Florida. Marwan al-Shehhi and Mohamed Atta passed their private pilot airman test in Venice, Florida's Huffman Aviation Accelerated Pilot Program. They also did a lot of simulator training. They failed Stage 1 exam for instrument-only rating at Jones Aviation. So all of them had either full-on commercial pilot license or at least single-engine private pilot certificates, or in the case of two of them, being able to fly a plane. Only Khalid al-Madhar and Nawafar Ajahami were poor students, were flunked after 6 lessons from someone in San Diego Montgomery Field because they focused on learning to control the aircraft in flight but no interest in taking off or landing, which is an obvious giveaway. They were too stupid to be pilots or too stupid to really be terrorists, so they end up just being muscle men. They didn't fly any airplanes. But these are the ones that people keep citing by saying things like, none of these people could land or fly a plane. That's bullshit. All of these individuals were able to at least fly a plane. That's it. Just basic, can you fly a plane in the air kind of test. And yes, landing and taking off were included in this for the most part. Only 2 of them people emphasize on this subject are of a variety where you'd say, well, it's amazing they were able to fly a plane. And then they bring up, well, what about the Herculean maneuvers they did when they flew planes? They weren't. If you actually use the flight recorder data, it's actually not that difficult to do. And it's not, you can have ordinary people fly this, but anybody who's taken really basic training and is still stuck not yet being able to solo fly, you can actually get people to do the test and they're able to do it. They can fly their jet aircraft at rated speed into the Pentagon and shit. So let's do the rest of this. If you believe some terrorists that could barely fly a Cessna could fly a 767, you have a lot of research to do. Counterpoint, you didn't do any. Next. Also, try throwing a beer can through an I-beam. Physics is wrong. Is that what you are saying? No, you can. If you get it going fast enough, a beer can will go through. And it's not a beer can. It's more like a piece of aluminum pipe. It's an airplane. It isn't that damn light. Why are you saying an I-beam can be hit by a beer can? Okay, how many I-beams were taken out? I know it's around 30. And they're not I-beams, they're box beams. They're actually tougher than an I-beam. But when you actually look at it, a 500,000 pound object made of aluminum hitting them at 500 miles an hour would absolutely go through them. You Neanderthal. Next. Remember, the building collapsed at free fall speed. No, it fucking didn't. If you're going to critique the 9/11 Commission report, critique that part. Well, at near free fall speed. What the fuck are you talking about? It wasn't free fall speed. Why are you using that expression? Well, it was almost in free fall. What the fuck are you talking about? Crap outside of the building is falling with no support, ergo, at free fall speed, faster than the building. So that means the building is not collapsing near free fall speed, fuckhead. Only time ever in history to happen, and it happened twice in one day. That is not the speed it was going at, so your argument's bullshit. Stop watching that Building 7 collapse video that's been altered so that it looks like it's falling at free fall speed. Stop looking at faked evidence by truthers. Truthers always lie. They never found any of the black bosses, but they found a passport from one of the hijackers. I've already lit my passport on fire, which is actually against federal law, I found out. But I've proven that the damn things are really hard to burn. Even soaked in gasoline, it won't burn. Yeah, I already did that. I'm not going to do that on camera, but I got mad and I wanted to burn my passport at one point. Let's just not go there. Are you a very sharp person? So do some research. I did. It took me 5 minutes. What the fuck is wrong with you? And follow the money. It will open your eyes. The people who benefited by this told you they did it. The terrorist organizations they were with took credit. Again, why are you inventing a world where a very convoluted version of the reality has to happen, where mini nukes and neutron bombs are set off and dustification? Where did the towers go? And trolling is your existence. Hello, AppTech and viewers. I would be very unlikely not to hear secondary explosions if a firefighter or first responder were to witness a supersonic wake before the explosion. Then that's a witness worth following up. Counterpoint. None of you have pointed out where you're getting these shit-headed stories from. You know that I'll look it up and find out the original quotes or find the original source data. As of right now, there's about half a dozen people out of the thousands of people that were there that day that say they think they were explosions. And the one video everybody points at is a firefighter saying secondary explosions is what he heard. And that is not an explosion from a bomb. A secondary explosion, and I've asked 2 or 3 firefighters because they're in the area here. What does that mean? Oh, that's when something in the building catches on fire and explodes because it happens to be flammable during a fire. It's secondary to the fire, not secondary to explosion. It would be very unlikely not to hear the explosions. Yes, everybody heard these things, these noises. They assumed it was material blowing up or burning up inside the building, like water containers, literally steam explosions. But anyway, here we go. The biggest indicator of a controlled demolition was video. I'm going to refer to the previous statement. You're looking at altered videos put up by truthers. Get the raw video and tell me you don't really want to watch it, right? Is that? How could an offset elevator shaft cause an explosion on the ground floor from this elevator? This was what most people are understandably perplexed. Thanks for your worthy words. Offset elevator shaft cause an explosion on the ground floor and from this elevator. Now, you're talking about one of the elevators that goes from the 1/3 point that fell, or a bunch of them that fell one after another. Is that the source of the explosion sounds? Elevators falling? Or are you one of these neutron bomb guys who thinks that an atom bomb can be set off underneath the building, but it'll only cause the building to tunnel up through the middle and disintegrate everything, instead of blowing up at the bottom and falling over because an atom bomb was set off underneath the building and the foundation? Please don't post a link to that idiot fake scientist. Next. Given the plane hit above the public elevator route, not connected directly to the ground floor, how could an offset elevator shaft? I will go ahead and look into this, but again, you have to provide me your source for this information. And again, what has this got to do with whether planes hit the buildings and whether or not the terrorists who arranged this took credit for it, or whether we found out after the fact how they did it? They didn't care if they got caught afterwards because they knew they were going to have information caught about them. They just wanted to make sure they could get away with it. I figure on this subject I could ask your thoughts on the maintenance guy for World Trade Center. His story from one of the sub-level floors having an explosion and describing the injuries to others has always been a point of interest on that day. If you're not familiar with his account of events, just Google him. I will go ahead and do so. As for the sounds at the bottom, what the 9/11 truthers have brought up here, understandably perplexed, is that 3 or 4 elevators fell because the building was on fire. Or parts of the building were caving in prior to the full-on collapse. Or pieces of the exterior of the building were falling on the ground outside. Or, if we want to take a fireman at his word, there were secondary explosions because the fire was making things boil over and detonate, or things that could burn, like coolant and whatever, that might be flammable if heated up enough, blew up. I don't know. If anybody wants me to, I'll do a video on that. But I'm going to demand this from the other people. Well, you didn't look this up. Yes, I did. You have to admit you didn't look it up. For the other persons, all you have to do is explain to me why you didn't look it up. But anyway, the other one is it's a controlled demolition because the firefighters a minority of firefighters said they heard what sounded like explosions. Everyone else said other things. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with it.